Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Black Hlth with D.Moss and myself, Justin Yarde, all talking about all things Black and all things health. Today we have the esteemed, I don't know what to say. I mean, what he does has been a long-standing in what I do as well, but he's been inspiring the community, healing the community for I don't even know how many years. But Kelvin Young, the esteemed sound healer, world-renowned, nation-renowned, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing there, Kelvin?
What's going on, Brother Justin, man? It's good to be here. Good to be back with you and Brother Daryl. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about, for the people that don't know what sound healing is, and also yoga. And there's always myths about both. What I do is me and Calvin work together annually, semi-annually, monthly sometimes. So having to talk about what he does to our community is kind of stunting. Sometimes it's like, oh, whoa, sound healing. What's that? You know what I mean? It sounds like witchcraft. Yoga, oh, watch out, man. You get into Hinduism, you're doing a little bit things and not understanding kind of the basis of both. And we're going to kind of demystify some of that today.
Yeah.
So Calvin, kind of tell us who you are. You know what I mean? Because there's more to you than just sound healing and what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity, this platform to share a little bit about my experience, strength, and hope, and how I got into sound healing and some of the benefits associated with sound work. Again, my name is Kelvin Young. I'm a certified sound healer, which have opportunities to offer individuals and group sound healing sessions for relaxation, stress relief, to different people from all walks of life. I have opportunities now to go to different yoga studios, wellness centers, addiction treatment centers, mental health centers, prisons, and different other locations throughout the United States. I'm also a community health worker at Intercommunity Healthcare in Hartford, Connecticut, where I work with returning citizens, formerly incarcerated individuals, and I connect them to our integrated healthcare services, such as primary care service, behavioral health services, as well as addiction recovery services as well too. And one of the most important things for me I want to share, because I think it's important for me to share, is that I'm also a person that's in long-term recovery, which means I haven't used alcohol or any other drug to deal with my mental, emotional distress since March 6, 2009. And I learned about, sound healing and different mind-body practices while I was incarcerated, after many years of battling with, addiction, mental health challenges, depression, anxiety. I found my freedom from alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and even prescription opiates. And I began that healing journey in a drug treatment program in prison, of all places. And it was with this prison program that I learned about the transformative powers of meditation and yoga and sound healing. And, I mentioned before that, I had a lot of misconceptions about yoga, about meditation, sound healing, because I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. I didn't see people of color practicing these modalities. And so I didn't think it was for me. And I had a lot of misconception about these practices. Some of the things that you mentioned earlier about this is witchcraft, this is voodoo. I seriously thought that yoga was for rich white women, because the way it's marketed here in the United States, and meditation and sound healing and different things like that was for Buddhists and hippies, But once I experienced it for myself, and really understand like the full benefits of it, it really changed my trajectory of how I looked at these modalities. And once I utilize these practices, allow it to be a vehicle for me to go within, because I truly do believe that healing, well-being begins from within. I was able to find that sense of calmness and inner peace, even being in that very hostile and restrictive environment such as prison. But one of the most important things for me, I was able to understand the root causes of my experiences with addiction. And from that lived experience, I learned that it was the unhealed emotional pain that I experienced in my life, the unprocessed trauma that I endured, going back to childhood, and that toxic chronic stress was at the root of my addiction. So I was reaching for something outside of myself to find a sense of relief from that distress. And I found it in alcohol and cocaine and heroin and opiates and all those other drugs. And it worked for a while. It took away the emotional pain that I felt for a very long time. It numbed the feelings of anxiety. It really filled the hole that I felt, and the sense of unworthiness, the sense of poor self-esteem, all those different low vibrational feelings that I was experiencing, and I couldn't put a name to it, but I just know how I felt, and I know how certain drugs, it temporarily made me feel better, but it caused more long-lasting negative consequences at the end. Where I was getting arrested, going to court, getting put on probation, going to drug treatment programs. Then it got to the point where the judge got tired of seeing me, and he started sending me to prison. And it was a revolving door. And I was part of that recidivism statistic for a while until I had an opportunity to go within, look at myself through the process of sound, um, and begin the inner work I needed to do in order to heal and find freedom from alcohol and other drugs. And once I was able to see that and understand that and bring that awareness to my consciousness, I was able to really shift the way I see myself, the world, and the people in it. And once I was released from prison, I was able to dive deep into the therapy and the practices and the science of sound healing, and understand that it's a mind-body practices that have been utilized for many years. Every culture have their own way of using sound and music for healing, for therapeutic purposes, for transformation, for spiritual healing. So, understanding that, our culture, the African culture, we have the drum, we have the rattles, we have different tools that we utilize for sound and for healing. And, you look at ancient Kemet, how they use different sound frequencies for healing as well, too. So, sound has been used for different cultures throughout for years, for many years, and really utilizing these ancient practices in the modern day times to help us to deal with anxiety, different feelings of depression, post-traumatic stress, sleep issues, insomnia, trauma, unprocessed trauma, different other types of emotional distresses that we experience on this journey that we call life. Became a passion of mine, so therefore it's a passion for me to sit with other human beings and allow them to, what should I say, create the sacred space for people to go within and tap into that inner guru, so to speak, that inner teacher, where we get our insights and wisdom, and we can tap into that. I truly do believe that all the answers to our questions that we have in life is within us. But taking the time just to be still, to connect with our true essence of who we are, and really listen to the answers that comes up with us during a sound healing practice or during a meditative practice. I think it's part of the healing experience as well too. And it's been a journey. There's some ebb and flow in my journey. But I continue to learn and grow and evolve through this journey that we call life.
Definitely an inspirational story. I think a lot of people don't understand that you can use things outside of drugs, alcohol, um, binge shopping. You know what I mean? The things that we use, whether we use it or to knowingly or unknowingly, we can use that to heal ourselves. Do you want to answer that question real quick? I don't know if you see it.
Sure. Yeah. Brenda, she mentioned that she did her first sound bath last Saturday. Okay, that's what's up. The question, I didn't get a chance to finish.
Is it like sound healing? Is it similar to sound healing?
A sound bath.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. It's very. It's the words are interchangeable. Some people say sound healing. Some people say sound bath. It's all the sound healing experience. A lot of people use sound bath because it's like you're literally getting bathed with the vibrations and frequencies of the different healing tools that we use, whether it's the crystal bowls or the gong or the hand drum or the Himalayan bowls, the shuti box or the different other healing tools and instruments that we use during a sound healing session. But it's the same experience, whether you call it a sound bath or sound healing. It's all part of the healing with sound and vibrations and frequencies. But I'm glad you experienced that, Brenda.
Good, good. So we have Kim here, extraordinaire, has every yoga certification known to anyone. And she also, I've worked with Kim most of the times, and it's important for people to understand that she is a yoga instructor, but what that entails for a lot of people, they may not know. So I'm gonna have her take the floor and kind of tell us who she is and what she does so wonderfully in this community of ours. There might be a little lag.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your patience. My sound is a little off, so I'm working with a delay. So I hope everybody can hear me okay. So I am a certified yoga instructor here in the Springfield, Massachusetts area. And that includes asana, which is the postures, and also breath work and meditation. And I like to combine all three of those elements in my classes. So Justin teases me because I do have different certifications in different types of yoga.
So I know that people think yoga is really in sound healing, like Calvin says, for the elite whites. But if people can understand the history of these things, I'll give a tidbit about sound healing is in the Bible. Everybody's saying, oh, sound healing, that's devil's worship. Well, David used the harp to heal who? All right, my Christians, David used the harp to heal Saul of his night tremors, right? And that heal, the word heal was used, and the word sound was used as well. So just give a little history on of yoga, you know what I mean? Because there's also different places where you can get yoga as well, aside India.
Right. Yoga is mostly known widely from coming from India, but if you notice, if you go to Egypt and you look on the wall, you see the hieroglyphics on the wall, they're doing yoga postures. They're doing the wheel and the balaka, different things, with the legs behind the ears or whatever. If you look up on the wall, those are yoga postures. So I've taken a lot of certifications, and I also attended some retreats and conferences, and I met a man, Yosef, let's see, what's his name? Hlth. He created Kemetic yoga, which was based out of Egypt. He does a lot of ships out of Egypt or whatever. And he said there was like an ancient civilization from ancient Egypt. I think it's called Memphis, ancient city of Memphis, where the Nubians were, and they would travel around and they would do yoga postures. So some people believe that yoga was created not only in India, but other people were doing yoga in other parts, in other countries or continents like Africa. They might have not called it yoga, but it's basically the same type of movement that you see. And a lot of things on the walls of the tombs in Egypt, you see people doing breath work. He does a lot of postures, with the hands or whatever, and they're just moving. Where you see the arms out straight, bringing the palms together and different things like that. So it's been said that yoga actually started in Africa, and it's also, a long history in India also. So there's a lot that you can dive into to learn what the original origins are. But basically, it was yoga. It might have been called something different, and they might have been doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to understand too. I know in your practice, when you get people, our people, what are you saying to them? Is there a barrier up? You mean when they first come and see you? You know what I mean in your practice, or are you having to explain yourself? And then how are they doing in their practice, and how are they thriving in your practices, and how are you seeing them heal? This for you too,
Well,
Kelvin
a lot
too.
of people think it is a white thing. They say black people don't do that. And even when I started on my journey, before I got certified, I would go to different yoga places, and I would be a lot of times the only black person in the area or in the room. I went and, people, I went to one class and the guy was like, "Oh, you're here for yoga?" He was literally like fixing to shut the door on me. And I'm like, "Yeah." And I've been to Kripalu before. I have a certification from there, but before I did the certification, I went there on a day trip. And they were so not used to seeing black folks. It was ridiculous. I had people following me around. I had one lady, they had an African dance class and she thought I was an African dance teacher. So she's following me around, asking me about like, am I gonna sweat? What kind of dances are we gonna do? And I'm like looking at her, I'm like, I'm a guest here too. You just assume, because I look a certain way that I must be the African dance teacher. And I had one lady, she was saying that she had just came back from Africa and she wanted to give me a hug because she misses seeing people that look like, it was just weird. And I was just there for the day. So
Wow.
it wasn't, it was
Oh man.
crazy. So I hadn't gone back in a long time. I actually went back many years later as part of the Black Yoga Teachers Conference, where we kind of took over the place. We kind of shut it down when they seen so many Black yogis from all over the world there. But it is a wallet for a lot of people. They don't see themselves. They think they got to be a certain shape or size to do yoga, and that's just not true. And they think it's a white privileged person's practice, but it's for everybody, and we probably need it more than anybody.
Absolutely. I was looking up when I look up yoga, I see some they talk about how yoga, I guess the incorporation of meditation, breathing can help improve a person's mental well-being. And when we talk about black health and some of the many issues and the many manifestations of health, we talk about the problem of mental illness and how it oftentimes go unresolved. And we don't go after the clinical treatment that we should get. There's just so many variables involved. Talk about how yoga, and Calvin, you as well, in terms of sound healing, why this is significant in terms of our mental well-being. I think that's so critical.
Absolutely. I'll start and share. You know, Nikki Myers, a friend of mine, she's the founder of Yoga and 12-Step Recovery. She often says that our issues live in our tissues. So, the racial trauma that we experience as a people, those emotions that we suppress or repress for whatever reason, it's in our bodies, it's in our muscles, it's in our tissues. Our cells have memory and our body keeps score of all of our experiences that we go through in our life. And there's the racial trauma, then there's the intergenerational trauma, there's the ancestral trauma. All that is in our bodies. So just how my ancestors were enslaved and brought to America, all that the suffering, the pain, and everything that they experience, it's in my body. And oftentimes, when I'm frustrated or aggravated or feeling hyper vigilant or just all these different types of intense emotions that I was growing up, with, they didn't know how to name it, didn't know how to process it. Only thing I knew how to do was numb it with alcohol and other drugs. I didn't realize, how trauma, not only my individual trauma, but all the racial intergenerational and ancestral trauma, how that affected me as well too. And growing up, we never used the word trauma in my household. It is
Right.
what it is, and you keep it moving. But when I learned about how the emotional distresses that we experience in our life, the anxiety, the depression, just the sometimes for me was the rage and the angry outbursts. all that stems from the unprocessed trauma that we deal with in our life, and not to mention slavery, not to mention the Jim Crow and the Willie Lynch psychological operation, and all those things that we experienced as a people here in America, and how that all that pain was passed down to us as well too. So one thing about sound penetrates to the cellular level and helps to release that stuck energy or that suppressed emotion or that traumas in our bodies. And oftentimes it's released in the form of tears, which is a beautiful thing. That means, the trauma's coming from, the pain that's coming within our bodies is being released. Some people get different trembling, tingling sensations in certain parts of the body. The vibrations and frequencies from the different healing instruments is penetrating to the cellular level and helping to release that stuck energy or stuck emotions or trauma. Some people get different colors, different things, and the meditative sounds. It's proven. Studies have shown how it promotes healing from chronic stress, muscle tension, physical pain that we feel in our bodies, feelings of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, insomnia, and addictive behaviors, and different other stress-related chronic health conditions that we experience in our lives.
And even some of those things we tend to normalize.
Right.
It's just hey man, we black, man. These are things we deal with. I don't need that. So when you talk about sound healing, then I'm just ask the same question with the yoga. Like, what exactly is it for someone who's never experienced it? What exactly is it? Like, what's the process? If I go to one of your sound healing sessions, take me from step A all the way through the end, quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
I want to make sure they have an understanding of what it is, so that they better understand why they need to go. Because right. Things here, and Justin and I talk about this a lot. Not only do we not talk about yoga, do we not talk about massages, do we not talk about sound healing and all the other things that we need, we don't talk about Black health. We're from the same area, the Meriden Middletown area. The issues that we dealt with down there way back when we had hair on our head. Those are some really stressful times. And the thing is, it's like,
that's why you lost your hair.
Health, but in our homes, in our churches, the social settings, on the basketball court, the only time we talked about health was when somebody got hurt or when someone got sick. So tell folks about sound healing, what it is, and why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, back in those days, I remember when the Ku Klux Klan was marching in Meriden. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you know what I mean? And how we got stopped. We was going to get our hair cut from Cooper, you know what I mean? And we got the police stopped us and pulled us over and asking us questions because we're just trying to get our hair cut, and how all that is taken in with our bodies, our racial trauma, our racial microaggression, all those things, and how I was taught that sound healing is the intentional use of sound, to create an environment, a relaxing, a calming, and a healing environment, to really help people to get into a place of calmness and relaxation, and really helps us to bring to a place of inner peace, inner stillness, relaxation. The vibration from the different tools that we use, it really helps us to bring us from a state of stress, anxiety, to a place of inner calmness and peace.
Okay.
And it's an hour long usually. And you're usually laying down on a mat. And then just the fact of you laying down and just relaxing, that helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Gotcha. For the vibrations and frequencies, it takes us from that waking state, that we're in right now, and in scientific term is known as the beta state of brainwave activities, where we're doing a lot of worrying, a lot of stressing. It activates the sympathetic nervous system. It kicks in that fight or flight or freeze and appease response for people that have trauma in their lives. So it kicks that in. But after, a few minutes of listening to the sounds from the crystal bowls to the metal bowls, the gong, and different other healing tools that I use, it takes us from that waking state of beta, brainwave activities, down to the alpha state, which is a relaxed state. And many people go even deeper into that theta or delta state, which is a more deeper meditative state. And it's in that alpha, theta, delta state, which is known as the healing state, because our bodies and minds are so relaxed. And when we're in that relaxed state, our bodies have a natural, innate ability to heal itself, you know. And in our community, you know, there's valid reasons why, you know, we don't trust certain medical, you know, institutions here in America,
Right.
behavioral health or physical health. But a lot of times, you know, in my own personal experience as well too, it's fear of what we gonna learn about what's going on with our health if we go. You know, a lot of our cancers could be if it's detected early, it could be treated well. You know, the colon cancer, prostate cancers, in Black men, you know, diabetes. You know, there's things that we can do to reverse these things. You know,
Right.
and one of the things that really affects all chronic health conditions is chronic stress. You know, and sound healing is a perfect tool to help us to decrease our high stress levels. Because when our stress becomes chronic, that's one of the things it does is weaken our immune system. That makes us more susceptible to illnesses, diseases, flus, and viruses, and what have you.
Absolutely.
And particularly with the time of COVID, it's so important that we keep our immune systems high and our stress levels low.
Not just in the time of COVID. I think we need to keep our stress levels low, period, from hypertension, blood pressure, all that stuff.
Yes,
not
sir.
just COVID, because they talk about COVID, but when I look at, you know, the data, we're being negatively impacted by almost every disease on the block.
Right.
So we just have to be cognizant of our health, period. I appreciate that because last question for you. If I'm going to a sound healing session, how do I prepare? Like, what should I do as I'm leaving my house? How should I prepare? How should someone dress? Do I need water? Talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's best to dress in very comfortable clothes, you know, some sweats, you know, women tend to wear the yoga pants, you know, some loose fitting clothes to make yourself feel comfortable. You know, you can bring your yoga mat, you can bring any pillows, any blankets, anything that's going to make you feel comfortable. Laying down for an hour, you're more than welcome to do so. Most studios, you know, they have their, you know, the yoga mats and everything as well too. And just come with an open mind, you know, and really have opportunity to relax. And one of the things I like to do is to have a group discussion, have a check-in, you know, give people opportunities to share where they're at, how they're feeling, you know, what they're feeling within their bodies, any sensations, any thoughts, any intense emotions. You know, it's important for us to create a safe space for us to be vulnerable enough to share what's really going on within our hearts, within our bodies, you know. And after that, you know, invite people to lay down or get into a comfortable position and just simply just be, you know, for the next 45, 50 minutes to an hour and just listen to the sounds and just really allow the sound to take you where it needs to go. You know, the first stage for me, I believe, is relaxation. You know, like I just said earlier, it takes us from that stress state into a more relaxed state. But then we have opportunity to reset, you know, when we check in with ourselves and notice how we're feeling. And then when we get to that theta delta state, we're able to tap into our inner essence of who we are, you know, because we're more than just our physical bodies. There's also emotional, mental, and a spiritual essence of who we are as well too. That makes up the totality of who we are. So in that second phase, we get an opportunity to connect to the true essence of who we are, where all that wisdom and knowledge and understanding dwells. Then after that, there's a sense of rejuvenation, you know, on the third phase, where the vibration is doing its magic, is doing its work on our bodies and our minds. You know, it's reducing the stress levels in ourselves, the anxiety. It's bringing to a place of wholeness. And to me, that's what healing is all about, is just understanding and recognizing and being aware of our wholeness, you know, recognizing our divineness as well as our humanness with the flaws and all, and learning to accept who we are with love and compassion and understanding.
Okay.
And Kim, I want you to kind of bring them through what happens when they first come to you and what actually you get done, because I mean people still don't know what a personal trainer does. You know what I mean? They don't know what a person that teaches nutrition. So go into what happens in the yoga session.
But I do have to run. I just tell you about it. It was a pleasure connecting with all of you, Brother D, Justin, Kim. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm gonna go connect with my daughter, eat some food, and thank you so much for this opportunity, this platform to share a little bit more about sound healing for our people. So Thank you again, fellas, for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can. Thank you.
All day, bro. All
Okay,
right.
yes, sir. All right.
Kim, you have
Thank
the
you.
stage. It's all
Have a good
yours.
night. Okay, so for me, I usually okay. So for me, I try to ground people when they first come in, just to ground themselves, just to get comfortable. You know, stop worrying about how they, if they were rushing to get there. Just to be grounded and take a breath. To me, the breath is everything. If you can control your breath, you can control a lot of things. If you have little kids, or if you know little kids and they're excited or they're trying to tell you something and they're upset and they're breathing and it's like, just okay, just calm down or just take a breath. And I know sometimes the breath doesn't come easy. Sometimes you can tell someone to take a deep breath and that doesn't come easy sometimes. Sometimes you have to take small breaths, take a sip of breath, until you can calm yourself to get it out. So when people come in, I try to get them grounded, to get relaxed and to just notice their breath. Notice the breath going in and out of their nostril. I sometimes visualize something. I might tell them, imagine that you're smelling a flower and take a nice inhale. And as you exhale, you're blowing out a candle. Things like that, just to kind of give them some type of visual thing to work with. Because really, yoga started off with just a few postures. It was just getting you prepared to meditate. So it wasn't all these different postures that you see now. It was only a few things to get you comfortable in the seat to prepare for meditation. Or if you have people, you can't really explain like meditation, or like when you say stuff like the third eye, whatever, people look at you like, what is that? But if you give them something to concentrate on, that's when the postures come in, so you can do some type of breath work. I like to give breath work just to get them relaxed and, just to get them present, to be in the present moment and not worried about, you got to go to the store, what you got to do for your family, work the next day, just to relax, just be here, right now. So I usually start with that. Sometimes I add a mantra, which is something that you can say to yourself, whatever's right for you. Because people give you a mantra, but if it's not something that you believe, it's not going to do you any good. So you can create your own mantra, which is just maybe a phrase. It might just be a word or two. You can even use that with your breath, where you can inhale, let. Now, in exhale, you say go. So inhale and let, exhale, go. Just to kind of bring yourself into the present moment. You can add a mudra, which is just a hand gesture. You see people sitting crisscross and their eyes are closed all tight, and and that might not be comfortable for people that really want to do meditation. So I try to get them as comfortable as possible. If I add a block, a blanket, put them in a chair, leaning against a wall, just to get comfortable and just be present. So we can do a lot of things like that to get started. And I usually do exercises sitting down first, and then you might go from sitting to kneeling, doing back bends, and then you stand up, and then you come back down. In the end, you get to rest, which is savasana. I might do meditation at the end, just to bring them back in to their body. So it can be really restorative. I know a lot of people, especially Black people, we feel that we don't feel that we have the right to rest. And that's unfortunate, but it's always been drilled in to all of us that we got to work hard, you got to do this. So it's hard to relax. You feel guilty for resting, and it's your birthright, just like everything else, to rest. So I'm trying to make people aware of that.
Wow. It's so interesting you say that, because
So I'll stop babbling in case you have any questions.
nah, you're not babbling at all. It's interesting. A few years ago, I went to Antigua to visit family, and it was like the middle of the afternoon, and they shut the whole area down because they were like, "Yeah, it's a beautiful day. We're just going to appreciate the weather." And they shut everything down. People came home from work, the school closed, and everybody was home. They just did nothing. and they just relaxed. Some people took naps and they rested. And I just thought that, me and my brother and I, we just thought that was just so amazing and crazy at the same time, because here, you're absolutely right. I never thought about that until I went there. We always feel like we have to be working on something or doing something. So it's just like when you say that, it's like, wow, that's amazing. So let me ask you this. How many black men actually participate in yoga since you've been an instructor?
Well, not a lot in this area. There might be maybe one, and their spouse or their significant other might be someone of a different race or ethnic background. I'll just say that. But when I went to the conference, I met men from all over. I met,
Wow.
Yasir Hotep. He created Kemetic Yoga. He's out of Chicago. I met Marshawn Feltis. He spent time in jail. He was a gang member. He learned yoga in jail and came out. He's like, nobody was going to hire me. I was a ex-con or whatever. So he created his own business, teaching yoga. He does a lot of stuff in the community. I met a younger brother out of the Boston area.
Okay.
That did yoga. So there's some around, not too many in this area, because a lot of men, I shouldn't say that. I won't say a lot of men, but a lot of people that I know think it's not for them. It's not a black thing. It's not, men don't do it or whatever. And they probably need it more. I even met a sister, her name is Sherry. I think she might be out of the DC area, but her and her husband went on this journey to get healthy, and he died. He had a massive heart attack and died. And now all she teaches is men. All her classes are based with men to get them on the mat, to do yoga, to learn how to relax and release that stress.
Right.
Yeah. I think some people don't understand. They think yoga is a lot of complicated poses, right? Uncomfortable movements. And so men physically are a lot more what you would call stiffer than women. And it's comes with a lot of science to it, but just think about it like that. And so when I'm doing the yoga pose, I'm over here sweating. You know what I mean? Because also a piece to that is like, all right, I'm not going to be working out hard. You know what I mean? This is girl stuff. What yoga allows you to do, in my experience, it allows you to do two things, right? Understand how to sit and hold. Right, in life, sometimes you gotta sit, you gotta know when to hold them and fold them, and that's what yoga really does. Because you'll be sitting in a position, you might be in that position for 30 seconds to a minute, and it's nothing to do with lifting weights or anything like that, but it allows you to stretch your body out. You know what I mean? The aches and pains of lower back issues, right, have been healed through yoga. You know what I mean? People that have had hip replacements, right? They're in yoga, seeing amazing results from it. You know what I mean? People that have back surgeries, major back surgeries, see the benefits of yoga. And so for men that are out there, when you're doing yoga, you have to make it equated to everyday movements are not limited. Like D doesn't have a flexibility issue, right? D can be in a yoga posture, no problem. Me, I'm stiff. So it restricts my movement. You know what I mean? When I'm doing a squat, so I can't go as heavy. I can't do this because of that. And as a trainer, I'll tell you that, like, if you don't have too much mobility, it's because usually what? You're stiff. You ever see the people walking around with their back hunched? That's from years of coding their body to walk around like that. Bad posture. You know what I mean? Poor alignment, lack of flexibility. And so yoga attacks at least three of those. The other thing they mentioned was that breathing part. We think we're breathing right. We really do. We think that we're breathing right. Not knowing that, not having adequate or knowing how to breathe correctly during like workouts or just something strenuous or even stress, right? Causes people to have that situation of, okay, when they have anxiety attacks, right? People with anxiety attacks as well. They don't know how to breathe during stress situations. So guess what happens? Yoga teaches you how to breathe. As a trainer, I didn't know 90% of my clients do not know how to breathe while working out. Therefore, not, and that's just working out. There's also a way to breathe that yoga is going to teach you. Is breathing from the belly. So we breathe backwards 90% of the time. I'll let Kim kind of go into that as well. But it taught me how to breathe. And once you learn how to breathe, it changes everything. Why? Because guess what? Your primary source of nutrients is first going to be oxygen. You can't, no matter what, you can go without food, you can go without water, but you can only last about 20, they really say 7 seconds, but it's like 30 seconds or 40 seconds to a minute without oxygen. So if you're not using it adequately, guess what? You're causing situations where you're having asthma episodes, right? You're not able to do any cardiovascular activity because you don't know how to breathe right. And every time after 10 minutes, you're done, right? We're causing people going as far as saying, okay, when I'm breathing, you mean I'm getting headaches. I'm like, what? Yeah. So those are some situations in which like breathing and yoga teaching me how to breathe better, and through meditation and mindfulness taught me how to breathe better. I was able to get over a little bit of the hump when it came to me trying to get further in my training as well. Because if you don't know how to breathe, obviously you're going to get tired quicker. So men, just get that out your head that it increases in performance and improves in performance across the board, outside of the weight room, outside of that, just in life. Period. Walking, you know, D, like you ever, I know we both got energy, so we really don't get caught with this, but you ever had that time when you ran up the stairs and you was like, what's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah, yeah. Listen, I get that now sometimes. I'm just like, I'm used to like, zah. Now I'm like, whew, let me stop on the second step before I go any further. So, wow. Let me ask a question. I'm going to back it up a little bit, Justin. I'm going to ask him a question. How do we get people to talk a little bit more about yoga? Because there's so many things we don't talk about. I mean, I'm 50-something, 56, and I don't think I've ever had a serious conversation with the fellas about going to do yoga. So how do we incorporate that into our everyday milieu? How do we make this a part of our regular conversations so that people can actually be cognizant of it? I think when we talk about some of the obstacles, I think lack of knowledge is probably number one. When we think of yoga, we think it's somebody else, but then B, we don't even talk about it. It's like it's just not a part of the the cultured conversation. So how do we get people to talk about it more? Then I'm gonna go back to what Justin was talking about.
I think, like you said, lack of knowledge and lack of education and when you see somebody that looks like you, that matters. So there's not like a lot of Black men out in this particular area. There are Black men that do yoga, but when you don't see it, you don't think about it unless you're, unfortunately, like you're in crisis mode. Like if your doctor say you're stressed, you need to go to yoga. So I think it's important to have representation of people that look like them. Hopefully maybe I can write a grant or something and get some of these brothers here to do some type of classes in the area, that might kickstart it and get their interest going in it. But I think it's so important what all of you said. And yoga at one time, and especially out of India, they were all men doing yoga. Women weren't doing yoga. Women, or they were split up in different things, especially hatha yoga. They were like young boys doing these things. And a lot of them were like in these wrestling schools, across from wrestling schools. They took like the family might send one a son or something, or they were orphans or whatever, and they were taught these different practices by these different people. And they were like across, I think it was Punjabi Joyce. You can find him on YouTube. He was saying they were across from a wrestling studio. So they would see the wrestlers doing all these crazy things. So they started doing all these crazy postures. So it was really originally men doing yoga. Women didn't start doing yoga until much, later, or on a more wide scale, unless they were in the family doing it as a family, but not mainstream like it is now. So it is important to see somebody that looks like you. And it's funny how things flipped around. Now you hardly ever see a man. You do see some, but not a lot of men in yoga studios, because even our bodies are shaped different. Of course, the chest, but your hips, your elbows different, your thumb is different. I did a class, and the woman gave us a whole list of stuff, difference between men and women. So the postures look different, when you execute them, between men and women. So if you are an athlete or you have strong calves or whatever, you don't want to sit cross leg. There's always variations that you can do to make yourself more comfortable. And it's funny, a lot of athletes actually practice yoga. I believe LeBron practices yoga. I did a class at the girls club once, and I kind of got the little boys' attention. They were into it more than the girls, actually. When you said, "Oh, LeBron does yoga," and they were like, "Oh, yeah, I really does yoga. I want my game to get better, so I'm gonna practice whatever." And the boys were really into it. I was shocked because the girls are, you know, sometimes the girls get distracted or whatever, and the boys were real serious about it. So I was kind of shocked by that. So maybe introducing them at a younger age might do that. Bringing it into the schools, maybe recommending some of the coaches, and it depends on the location. We can't not notice that. I know people who, certain neighborhoods and certain communities, they have yoga teachers that come in there. I did a yoga in the schools training in the Berkshires. They have a whole curriculum where they bring yoga into the schools,
right,
and teach the kids yoga as not necessarily an alternative, but as an option to have it in the whole school system. And they were like, the women were telling me, one woman, she's like, don't let them tell you they can't pay it. She said the schools can budget it in the budget. She said, don't go, as a volunteer. They can budget it in if they know in advance. They have a whole budget. She said, I seen a juggler come in, and they paid him like $400 for a one-time thing. So she said, don't let them tell you that they don't have money, because a lot of times you'll call and they're like, oh, we don't have budget for that. But, if you want to come in as a volunteer, she said, no, let them pay you. Your training wasn't free. So anyway, I'm getting off in a tantrum, but maybe just introducing them to them
actually, you're
at a
right.
younger age, or if they could see somebody that looks like them that also.
You're right on point. Because in communities of color, high percentages of Black and Latino men, they automatically assume that culturally speaking, it wouldn't be worth the time because the young men won't do it. And when you're talking about communities that deal with high rates of domestic violence, you have street violence, there's a rash of shootings in Springfield over the last 2 to 3 weeks, a long rash. And the question is, when you're dealing with young people who are dealing with this type of trauma in their neighborhoods, wouldn't yoga be beneficial for them to help them to kind of get peace of mind, learn to think things through? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Sometimes just taking a breath can save a life. It could save your life or somebody else's life if you could just take that breath and think about it. I did an exercise, and it's just like, just what do you hear? Just close your eyes and just, what did you hear? And they were like, oh, I heard the birds, I heard the wind. And, it's just amazing. Even as an adult, it helped me, because I get a little reckless at the mouth. I'm not going to lie, at my own job. So sometimes just taking that breath is like, and then there's alternative nostril breathing, where you breathe in, and you breathe in one nostril, you hold it, and you breathe out. It brings you down. It calms you right down. So when I do teach kids, I tell them, like, if you're having a test, you're having a bad day, if you even go in the bathroom, nobody has to see you do it. Just do that a few rounds. Or you can do it energetically, because usually we breathe through one nostril at a time. We don't normally breathe through both nostrils at the same time. Usually one nostril is the fight or flight, and then the other nostril will bring calm and relaxation, just like the brain. I'm not going to get too technical because I can't think of it offhand, but usually, like the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So it's the same with the nostrils. Most of the times we breathe in, I think it's between 4 and 5 hours, we're breathing out of one nostril, unless you have a cold. And then you really notice that you're congested, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm congested, I can't breathe. But most days we're all breathing out of one nostril. So just to teach them a simple technique on how to control their breath, because the breath is wonderful. You can be cold and you blow, that's warm. You could be eating something hot. That's cool, So if you can control your breath, and that might, think about it before you react. Just take a breath or two and just, you know, before you do something you might regret, just take a breath or two and think about it. So that might be an option that we can offer our kids.
Yeah, I see yoga taking hold of the school system very soon because there's a couple of companies that are doing it. We have a lot of Silicon Valley, California, and unfortunately, our school system is run by um, America or a quarter. Um, and so they're putting it in the school systems and seeing that it does play a good role in two things, right? The breathing, 100%, but it gives the kids a sense of belonging for some reason, right? Because there's different arts. Yoga is an art where you have everybody, it don't matter how good you are or how flexible you have to keep going because it's not really just about flexibility. It's really about mindfulness, breathing, with those techniques, those flexibility techniques and things like that. So they've seen a lot of kids feel like, okay, I can stay and stick in this. It's not like music where you have to have that ear for it. You have to have that talent for it. It's something that they're going to use in the schools to help kids kind of go, what you would call matriculate to something that makes them feel like they belong as well. And then also when it comes down to it, like you said, the breathing aspect has been big, and they actually took most of that 1, 2, 3 counting and breathing stuff from yogis, right? And what they consider yogis now. So when it comes down to it, the breathing themselves and cooling themselves down through the breath work is something they stole from you. You know what I mean? Now they're using it in psychiatry and stuff like that. But that's obviously helped tremendously because they still use it today.
Right. It's interesting because in our house, Victoria uses yoga with the two little with our girls, and it's really about how do we get people to incorporate this into their conversations. How do we get families to start, taking this practice and using it in the household? She'll put on the video. They have children's yoga, and you get the kids involved. So I hear both of you referencing the schools, but I'm thinking, what happens in the family? When we talk about the churches, if there's a shooting. What is the response to trauma? What's the response to anything happening in the home, something traumatic happening? How do we get community centers, churches, and just families, parents, to start implementing the practice of yoga in their homes? It's like I publish a newspaper. Would love to start publishing articles on both sound healing and yoga because I think people need to hear more about it. We need to make this the new normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand it works. You know what I mean? People don't know it works.
Well, we know. Well, here's the thing, Justin. We know it works because people have been using it for centuries.
But that doesn't.
Sadie, how do we get people? It's kind of like, how do you control the tone of a community? You find practices that work. Sound healing, we know it works. People have no idea that it exists. So now you introduce them to sound healing. In every conversation, if they say, there was a shooting, were any kids involved, any kids in the area? Well, let's get a group of young people and let's introduce them to sound healing so that they can be at peace with themselves and find ways of meditating. Let's get these families who are going through this trauma, let's get them a yoga instructor and let them learn how to meditate. And, the flexibility and stuff that'll come. But how do we slow ourselves down enough so that we can think and process? So when I say that, that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes we assume that people know, but don't want to do it because it's difficult. The reality is, up until I met y'all, never heard anybody talk about yoga. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, how do we step this up and get people to talk about yoga?
I mean,
we have Kim on the show today, but go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, we have our journey, and that's not a plug either. Just we have a sound healing and yoga, right? Mm-hmm. It's for people. We put it inside the program because again, as much as we think people know, they don't know it works. So they think it's just something that people do. people don't know there's an other side to life. Like you got to think, like most of us are living in that fight or flight response, that stress, right? And so if you knew something worked, then why wouldn't you do it? Because 9 times out of 10, what I'm seeing, people don't know it works. Once they experience it, they ask for it like it's medicine. Like, yeah, I need a sound healing session. Like, I need it right now. I need a Reiki. I need a yoga.
In my experience, Justin, when I tell people what Kelvin does now in terms of the sound healing, you know what the response is? What is it? What is
That's
it?
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yo, so like when you say they don't know it works, I think most people just like sound healing. What is that? Yoga, that's what the white people do. But my thing is, and I dig where both of y'all are coming from, I'm simply adding to it by saying, we need to make this a part of our regular same thing we talk about with all the shows. This needs to be a part of the conversations that we're having, period. Before I left City Hall, they would talk about me overseeing the gang program. Johnny Muhammad now has a gang program. So it's kind of like we should be introducing Kim to Johnny Muhammad if she doesn't know him and saying, listen, you can't work with these young boys. Before you can even talk to them, you have to find ways of getting them to settle down, learn to breathe, learn to meditate so they can think clearly. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. It makes more sense that sometimes I know they don't use it in the schools because sometimes it makes too much sense.
Well, we say the schools.
Taking the schools out the situation. Yeah,
Take the schools out the picture because the schools don't do anything that's really gonna. That's another story. Don't get me started on the schools, the municipality. The thing is, we have resources, we have practices, and we're waiting on other people to implement it so that we can be introduced to it. So I'm simply saying, I'm sitting, my wheels are spinning as I'm listening to Kelvin and I'm hearing Kim now, and I'm going, okay, how do we take this? Not complex. How do we take this and say, you know what, Keyshawn, you have these programs. What do we need to do to have her come in on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, just start that conversation.
Make it happen.
Yeah, that's it. I think Keyshawn sees it. That's easy. I saw it. That was the easiest thing. And let's just starting that conversation because also Kim knows, like, people don't know us around, and we've been promoting it for a minute. We've been doing free yoga ones outside, sound healing, everything. You mean, D, you've seen it at your house, so it's like it's been everywhere. I think it's just, again, the reason why I mentioned schools is because our people, and this is where we come in, love systems. So they love the school system.
No, we don't love systems. We disagree on that one. I think we're forced into systems.
Exactly.
Which is why we don't respond. Which is why we don't respond well, and they underestimate our capacity to think, our capacity to perform, our capacity to enact process, because we don't really do systems like that. So, which is why I say take the schools door to the side, because no, we're not into that. We're forced to do it. But how do we take this same practice that Kim is doing and get our community involved? Once our community is involved, then you can have a collective work. You can have a collective action plan to force the schools to do it. But if we don't know how significant it is and why it's absolutely necessary, and it's not just this cute upper middle class practice, we're not going to push for it. And they're not going to give us anything we don't demand. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're like, mm-hmm. But Kim, you've been quiet. Let me hear what you got to say.
I totally agree, and I'll take responsibility for my part too. I haven't done as much as I could have. I was certified about 5 or 6 years ago. I tried things and it didn't work out, and then I just kind of stepped like, oh well, maybe so I'll take responsibility. I'm not as in the community as I could be. I tried a few things and things didn't work out, and I kind of backed off of it, thinking like maybe I'm not in the right area for this. Maybe the people in this area just aren't interested for it. I'll tell you, with the shutdown, we all got sat down. You know what I mean? When I see that commercial with the African basketball player, he just slapping things down like, all right, now. So it made us sit down and think about things like, how can I do this. I can't be in the studio right now. So I had to like jump online, to do stuff. It was crazy. I did Afroflow yoga, and they're out of Boston, and they were like, we're going to do online. I'm like, how are we going to do it online? We got to be in person. I need a drummer and I need dancing, and it can't be done online. And she said, yeah, it can be done online. So I was here on Zoom in my house, and they were in Boston in their house. The husband's playing the drums. It worked. So we all had to learn to be flexible and just make it work. I know I don't really like being on camera. I don't like to be in the forefront, but I don't have an option,
I don't like being
so
on
I
camera.
probably could have did more. I could have probably knocked on a few more doors or tried to make some more. Yeah, right. So sometimes we get made to be in uncomfortable situations to make us grow. So this is forcing me to grow right now, and to think outside the box and do things alternatively. I've known studio owners, and they're like, we got to go online. We got to do virtual stuff, and it works. You can do both. Now you have another source of income or another thing to do. You can do classes in person and you can be online. You can do it basically anywhere. You have a computer, get out there and, do what you got to do.
Do you do online?
I haven't done it consistently. I'm working on that. I got a mentor, and she's on me like, you got to get more. So I'm working on that.
Okay.
And Justin's been supporting me for a long time, and I appreciate that. He's always promoted me and called me in. So
okay. And
I appreciate that.
Oh, and here's the thing. When we talk about what we need to do, this show is all about Black health. So you don't have to take responsibility for anything. The onus is really on all of us collectively, which is why we do this every week, because we need people to start changing the conversations and discussing just about anything that's going to impact Black health. So don't take the blame for nothing. Now that you hear it and I know about it, it's kind of like in my head, I'm like, okay, what can we do to really push this so we can get more families to practice yoga or to attend sound healing sessions or whatever the case may be while we're on the show.
Okay, I definitely agree. I remember we did stuff here, but we just kind of let it. I shouldn't say we, but I've known stuff that came to the city. Unfortunately, my cousin Tracy Whitley passed away, but she did a whole health thing. Donna Richardson, remember she was married to the radio guy. They had a whole thing at the Hall of Fame. She had Donna Richardson come in. It was wonderful. We had different people there. There was yoga. She did a whole thing of different exercises. So maybe we can pull something together. I mean, I know you do music and poetry and stuff like that, but maybe we can come together as a health-wise, maybe some of the people that do things like some of the trainers, some of the other yoga teachers, some of the Zumba teachers, some of the dance teachers, maybe we can come together and create something in the community. Maybe we can have an event or something like that. I met a lady out of, I think she's in the Midwest. She did this thing called, it was like Flat Out Fridays or whatever, and she had she had like a kickboxing class. It's not just her, but she came together with a group of people and they put it together. Like every Friday, you come in. If you want to do yoga, you go one room. You want to do chair yoga, you go to another room. You want to do Zumba, you go there. You want to do dancing, and she would post it. I was amazed. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So many people right in this area or all together that can offer things. Sometimes it's just word of mouth and finding the right venue and then to support everybody. Because I know things add up. You like, oh, I'm paying, $15 a class for once a week or whatever. But it's like you pay for what you want.
Yeah.
I worked in those studios. People come in the door with their money out, no questions asked.
Right.
I'm not one to try to get a discount or whatever. Pay people. You'll pay for what you want. You pay for other things. So
I think
Just a
that's
suggestion.
a dope idea. Justin, you down to do it? A black health exhibition?
Actually, there's a young lady that's doing it coming up in July. Well, you know her. She'll be on the show too. In next month. Her name's Tiffany J. So she's putting that together right now. It's a Black Expo. They're doing it in 3 different cities. The first one's gonna be in Springfield. She's gonna have all different types of yoga. So Kim will be there. She's definitely gonna hit up Kim because I think she knows
That's
Kim
dope. Okay.
well. So
So
she's already on the move right now. So
is this going to be a black health exhibition? We have all different types of.
Oh yeah.
yep, and only Black people. You know what I mean? So you'll be hearing from her. Everybody, she's gonna be on the show next month,
Okay.
probably the 3rd week. So she does Reiki, she does yoga, she does Zumba, she does all that, but she's putting it together and
All
she's
right.
doing it right here in Springfield. So
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's
October
beautiful.
is what they're looking like. It's October they're looking like. So you'll hear more about it. So people is moving, and I think that this city has done a great job of, whether we realize it or not, we've done a great job at making moves. There's some other young ladies that are doing the yoga thing right now. Thing they
Black
call
girls,
Freedom Flow.
Black girls who freedom flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're making it popular. They're pushing for the men to do it. You know what I mean? And so people are making moves. I think it's just consistency from what I've seen. That's it.
Okay. All right. And we're at that hour and 6 minute mark.
And as always, thank you, Kim. Give them your information, where they can find you, and how sessions work, and how they can get in contact with you so they can experience what everybody. One of my clients keep talking about Kim, and she's a
Oh, thank you. So right now I'm at our journey with Justin, working with his clients. I think I have a delay, so forgive me. I can be reached. I'm working on a website. I'm working on a brand name. I'm working with a business coach right now. But for right now, you can reach me at 413-887-7875. And again, 413-887-7875. And my name is Kim Westbrook. You can also reach me at my Gmail, which is KDubWest. That's the letter K, D like David, U like unicorn, B like brother. KDubWest, W-E-S-T, W-E-S-T at gmail.com is my email account. On Instagram at ki.west, W-E-S-T.10 on Instagram. So I'm hoping to post more pictures and just be more in the community. It's comfortable staying in the background, but sometimes you just got to move forward and be seen. So I'm working on that. I'm working with Justin at our journey. I don't know if he wants me to advertise that right now, but
you can.
I'll let him give me the okay on that one because of the restrictions. We're still kind of working in small groups right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So usually it's Sunday at 11 a.m. At our journey at 321 Albany Street. We're opening it up in about 2 weeks, but it's every Sunday at 11 a.m. And it's an amazing experience, right? The drop in, you just contact us. We'll tell you the drop in. I think it's about $10 for the drop in. So people can talk about. We don't really talk about how anything's expensive or inexpensive, but this is a great class for that price. Amazing class, and it's a part of our series that we're opening up again. We limited to our clientele, but now that things are going to be opening up again, we can operate at about 70% capacity until they give us 100%. But come down this Sunday at 11 a.m., right? At 321 Albany Street, $10 drop in, and experience it for yourself. Mask required, and just get the experience that's going to really change you and make you hopefully into a yogi. You know what I mean? A student of Kim's, and we can have Black, you know what I mean? We can start our own certification. You know what I mean? For real.
Absolutely. All right, let's get it.
All right, y'all. I know
Absolutely.
Kim, thank you for being on the show, Kim, and giving us all the information we got. We got a lot from it. People use the information. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And so if you're not applying it, you're wasting it. All right. So as always, thank you for tuning in to Black Health. D.Moss, the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Yarde. Next week, we will be talking about babies, all right, and motherhood and health, right, with some of the best, not some of the best lactation counselors, doulas you can ever meet in your life. All right.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Have a good evening.